Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get cracking with a awesome card to represent the day, right? Now, this card is promoted by none other than the Grand Master of Boxing, Turkey Al Sheik. Turkey Al Sheik has took boxing to another level when it comes to getting the job done, in making the big fights, right? Now, nobody can now dispel the notion that boxing isn't better, right? And it, in my opinion, is headed with Turkey Al Sheik at the helm when it comes to promotions, right? When it comes to paying boxers and fighters their due share, right? I believe that Turkey Al Sheik is creating boxing anew. You know what I mean? I mean, before Turkey Al Sheik came along, right? And I made mention of this a couple of years ago that boxing was exploding from within, right? It was basically tearing itself down from within um, the promotions, the promotional scheme of things as far as boxing was concerned. No, I would say everybody started to dislike boxing. There was a lot of chatter about not being really passionate about boxing as the majority of us are today, right? Now, I never lost my passion for boxing, right? But there was a time when I was under the impression that boxing was taking a nosedive, right? And especially the promoters need to do something to make boxing great again, right? But obviously that didn't get done. But Allah is the best of knowers, right? And Allah presented us with Turkey Al Sheik. Turkey Al Sheik has been stomping all over the normal way that the promoters do boxing, right? I mean, but let me say this: there is no promoter other than Oscar De La Hoya, right, that has said anything relatively bad about Turkey Al Sheik, right? Uh, uh, Oscar De La Hoya is of the opinion that boxing isn't going to be what it used to be because of people like Turkey Al Sheik, right? Now, I don't know what Oscar De La Hoya is on or why he would say something like that, right? But if you ask anybody in the boxing know about how boxing is advancing as it exists today, I'm quite sure they will say the same thing that I'm telling you today, and that is Turkey Al Sheik has changed the dynamics of boxing as they were to a new position in the sport of boxing. And let's give Turkey Al Sheik a round of applause, right? Oh, seriously, give Turkey Al Sheik a round of applause because Turkey Al Sheik is literally, single-handedly changing the dynamics of boxing from the old to the new. And I'm gonna say this again: a shout out to Turkey Al Sheik. Now, let's get cracking with some boxing, right? Now, this card that I'm about to present, the undercard or a piece of the undercard, because this is, I mean, look, this is a huge fight with a huge cast, right? Meaning the boxers, right? We got a lot of named boxers in this event, right? And I'm gonna say this again: Turkey Al Sheik is putting on the fight that we want to see. You know what I mean? It had gotten to the point with boxing where anybody want to see what these promoters was putting on. Exception is Bob Earl and Eddie Hearns. Eddie Hearns, Eddie Hearns does some foul stuff. He says some foul stuff about boxers, right? But you can't say anything about Eddie Hearns' promotion. He puts on some shows, and he got us. And there's another thing a lot of people don't really realize. Eddie Hearns always somehow comes up with a viable stable of boxers, of fighters, right? He always seems to reach out to those that are at the top of the boxing ladder, right? And assigns them. He always have a dynamite stable. So let me say this: Turkey Al-Sheikh is one of the few people in the boxing scheme of things that, other than Oscar De La Hoya, that the promoters don't talk about in a bad light. All of them seems to be gravitating towards Turkey Al-Sheikh and those big bags that Turkey Al-Sheikh are bringing to the table. And he shares with the promoters, right? And I'm going to say this, in all fairness to Turkey Al-Sheikh. Turkey Al-Sheikh is a Muslim, right? Now, I said that to say that if you genuinely believe in Islam, right, there's no way that you could be a purveyor of falsehoods, right? And to date, I cannot say that I can say anything bad about Turkey Al-Sheikh in the sense that he didn't do something that he said he was going to do. Again, shout out to Turkey Al-Sheikh. And I'm going to say this, in all fairness to what I do as a pundit, as a boxing promoter, as a boxing trainer, and also as a boxing analyst, right? I am pushing myself to be in a position where I can have conversation with Turkey Al-Sheikh. Turkey Al-Sheikh is one of those guys, one of those persons, human beings, let me say human beings, right, that gravitates towards, I believe, helping others, right? And he, for me, and what I've seen in his work, right, and in his ability to make boxing great again, right, I've seen him do some awesome things for people. You know what I mean? And I don't believe that it's because he has a humongous amount of money. I believe that's in his heart. That's in his spirit. That's in the nature of who he is as a practicing Muslim, right? Now, I'm not going to go off into making variables, right, in regards to different promoters and where they get out and the things that they may do. But I will say, Turkey Al-Sheikh is a good dude. He's a good human being, right? And I can't wait to be in a position to shake his hand and to have a conversation about how we can better box it. Can't wait, but I am going to make that happen sooner or later. Now, let's get to some boxing, man. Keyshawn Davis versus Jamaine Ortiz at the 140-pound division, in the 140-pound division, right? This is a part of the undercard that features Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez. That's going to be an awesome fight, man. Contrary to the fact that I haven't been getting any momentum in regards to the things that I have been putting forth as far as the promotional scheme of things is concerned. But the fact of the matter is, contrary to that, this is going to be one hell of a fight, right? These cats, I mean, it's one thing that to promote the fight, right? But these cats, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, are really, really, really mad at each other. You know what I'm saying? And contrary to the fact that that's a part of promotion, that's what you do to attract the attention of the fans, to bring the revenues in, right? You try to make a good go at attracting the public, the fan base, right? And they've done that, but they have went well beyond the realm of just promoting a good fight, right? Shakur Stevenson is actually mad as hell at Teofimo Lopez. Now, that's not unnormal for Teofimo Lopez. Everybody that comes in contact with Teofimo Lopez leaves with a nasty taste in their mouth, right? Because Teofimo Lopez is the type of dude, right? He is constantly creating nonsense. Everything, nothing personal, that comes out of Teofimo Lopez's mouth is kind of like an insult. You know what I mean? And he was saying some things to Shakur Stevenson. I think it was at one of the face-offs, right? That Shakur Stevenson was actually livid, right? He was ready to get. I mean, he said, "I'm gonna slap the, you know what, right now, right?" And it's one thing to think about doing that, but it's another to be serious as hell about doing it. And I really believe heartfeltly that Teofimo Lopez was about to get the crap slapped out of him by Shakur Stevenson. So here's the thing. If you have that type of momentum in what you want to do right then, right, at that particular juncture, outside the scope of the ring, right, what you think that Teofimo Lopez is gonna what type of position you think Teofimo Lopez is gonna be in when he get in the ring with Shakur Stevenson? And Shakur Stevenson is already mad as hell, and he's an excellent boxer. What do you think is gonna happen? right? Now, for me as a boxer, right, ex-boxer, right, I'm not going to edge a person on to be more aggressive in his training regimen, right, to make sure he beats me, right? I'm not going to do that, right? But Teofimo Lopez, in all the encounters I've had with Teofimo since he's been boxing, right, that's what Teofimo Lopez do. He angers people to the point where they want to kill him in the ring. You know what I mean? Good strategy in one sense, but bad in another. If you are a excellent boxer going into a ring with Teofimo Lopez, want to take his head off, and you are good, as is the case with Teofimo Lopez. Excuse me, as is the case with Shakur Stevenson, right? Teofimo Lopez, as we already know, puts himself in a position where a person wants to crack him, right, for the thing that he said post fight. But let's be assured that Shakur Stevenson is going in the ring to tear a piece of Teofimo Lopez ASS off. That's the only way I can put it. You know what I mean? That's the only way that I can put it for it to make sense. You know what I mean? So let's be clear about that fight. The main event. That is the main event. But let's talk about Keyshawn Davis. And Keyshawn Davis is another dude that gets in your face, you know what I'm saying, at face off and tends to try to humiliate his opponent, right? The same thing applies to Keyshawn Davis. But let me say this in all fairness to both of these two dudes, right? In my opinion, I believe wholeheartedly that something psychologically and mentally is wrong with Keyshawn Davis and Teofimo Lopez. These cats act as though they have some type of mental disposition about themselves that is irregular, right? It goes back to the stuff that Teofimo Lopez said. Same thing about Keyshawn Davis. It goes to some of the stuff that he said and does, right? That last fight before the last fight that he was supposed to fight, but got disqualified because he was 4 or 5 pounds overweight and got disqualified and stripped of his what was it, the WBA lightweight championship belt. Well, he got stripped, right? But the things that he did in that encounter leading up to getting stripped were crazy. And you did that in front of the world, right? So my thinking is, if you did that in front of the world, put yourself in a position where the world can monitor your behavior right in front of them, right? And you didn't have any kind of judicial sense to be able to stop what you were doing and say, damn, I'm messing up, man. Let me back up. He couldn't back up. So that leads an intelligent person to believe that something is wrong with Keyshawn Davis, as is the case with not Shakur Stevens, Teofimo Lopez. Something is wrong psychologically with them dudes, man. But I hope that it doesn't have a long-term impact on the economy. Now, you don't want to wish that on nobody, man. You know, that they got issues, serious issues that needs to be addressed psychologically, right? Those guys need psychological help, in my opinion. Keyshawn Davis is fighting Jamaine Ortiz. Keyshawn Davis is 26 years of age. He's 5'9" with a 70.1-inch arm reach. He's orthodox, a right hand. He has 13 wins, 13 wins, 9 by knockout. No losses, never been stopped, no draws, right? He's ranked number 2 by the WBO. Jamaine Ortiz is 29 years of age. He's 5'8" with a 68.9-inch arm reach. He's also orthodox, a right-hander. 30 illustrious wins, 10 by knockout, 2 losses, never been stopped, 1 draw, right? He's ranked number 11 by the WBO. Now, I don't know if that's a good comparison in regards to the rankings by the WBO between the two to make a viable comparison, or whether they're good enough to go in the ring with one another, with Keyshawn Davis being number 2 and Jamaine Ortiz being number 11, right? I don't know if that makes any difference of the outcome of the fight, because that's a huge disparity. 2 versus 11, right? That's like 9 margins apart, right? And I mean, if you dealing with the rational aspect of numbers, right, you would say, damn, that's a huge margin. 11 versus 2. I mean, why would they put it? We'll see. I don't want to go off into the psychology of that because it probably will have a negative impact on the fight and how you view it, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Because, but to me, as an intellectual person of substance, right, the numbers don't. The world is made up of just numbers, man. Everything is numbers, really, right? So, in evaluating something, you have to use numbers. And for me, that's like, damn, I don't know about Jamaine Ortiz. They say he's good, you know what I mean? Got a pretty good work record, right? The 20 and with 2 losses. That's pretty good, right? But I don't know. It might be a good fight in comparison to Keyshawn Davis because Keyshawn Davis only had 11 fights, but he's been in there with some pretty rugged cats, right? And he's dominated those dudes. And he says, ooh, that's another thing. He said he's going to beat the dog stew out of Jamaine Ortiz. But on the other side of the coin, Jamaine Ortiz said he want to knock Keyshawn Davis out. And a lot of cats believe that Jamaine Ortiz has those type of skills where he can, you know what I'm saying, put Keyshawn Davis in a position where he can knock him out. I haven't seen those skills yet, right? And I've been following Jamaine Ortiz. I have not seen those skills where he's that competitive where he can just, well, a person can say, well, I think, no, I believe Jamaine Ortiz is going to knock Keyshawn Davis out. I don't think he's going to knock Keyshawn Davis out. No, I just don't think that because Keyshawn Davis has been around some darn good trainers, some darn good boxers. Speaking of one, Torrance Bud Crawford. And I noticed when he was in and around Torrance Crawford, he was on point. He was on point with his skill set. I saw the difference in the comparison, right? The then before and the when he was with around Bomac and Torrance Bud Crawford, right? Bomac was training Keyshawn Davis at one time, but for whatever reason, right? And that's left open to debate why he left because I don't believe what Keyshawn Davis is saying, right? He was getting the type of training necessary, right, to be a viable contender in that weight division, right? In any weight division, you know what I mean? I'm speaking in terms of low, lightweight, super lightweight, welterweight, right? He's a small cat. These cats could go up 3 or 4 weight classes if they choose to, if it makes sense, if they can do it if they want to, in my opinion, right? That's just a natural element of human nature, right? You know what I mean? You can go up in weight if you choose to. God gives us that ability to go up and down and still be healthy. And I think that's an amazing point that sometimes I think we forget to look at when we dealing with the weight aspect of human nature, you see. But again, let me say that I don't want to say that Keyshawn Davis is going to dominate Jamaine Ortiz, but I kind of think and believe that Keyshawn is going to prevail. I hate to say that. I like Keyshawn, but he does some stupid stuff, and I just cannot stand stupid stuff. I can't stand people that do stupid stuff, right? Because it has it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Because back in the days when I was young, I did a lot of stupid stuff, and I'm like, damn, oh, damn. You know what I mean? I mean, being realistic, right? As adults, we try to be around that type of environment that creates education, that creates learning, that creates being a better human being, right? Just to be out in the street doing the stuff that Keyshawn Davis is doing, especially after Andy Cruz got beat by Martel, right? And he did some ridiculous stuff. I'm quite sure, though, he made sure the world took note of that. That's how Keyshawn Davis is. I mean, you can't get around the fact that, again, Keyshawn Davis, in my opinion, has some mental issues, right? Anyway, let me say this. It's like, before I get up it, there's a lot of good, um, undercards on this, uh, uh, on this bout, right? On this particular bout, right? Let me say it like this. On this particular event, there's a lot of good boxing, right? Now, I'm not going to go off to who it is because I'm going to leave that for later on today. I'm coming back on today, right, with the rest of the card. I'm going to see how I'm going to do that. I might do it piecemeal it one by one. I might just put them in a collage and do all of them, right? So, if you don't mind, hit that subscription button. Look, you already know it don't cost nothing. Just push the button and subscribe to my channel. That would play a major role in how I move forward, right? I'm quite sure you guys know what I mean by that, right? Hit that subscription button, hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section and let me know who you think is going to win between Keyshawn Davis and Jamaine Ortiz. That being said, I'm gone, y'all.